Yes, it's the Monday Club at 7 o'clock. Although it does feel like it's about midnight when you look outside. It's weird now. It's proper pitch black. But yes, 7 o'clock Monday Club time. You know, staple show of the bus. Just think, Jonathan, first bus episode, I think, was the 4th of November, 2 years ago. Not bad going.
What anniversaries today?
I think that's right. It was the 4th of December. It might have been December.
I think it was December. I think it was December. I think we had a conversation in November when Celtic played Aberdeen about this. And then you launched it a couple of weeks later. It was the game where that Callum McGregor, that chap, got one bounced off the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper bounced one off him. It went in, I'm pretty sure. It was end of November. We were there. We were there. I think he launched it the week or two after that. There's a bit of insider gossip for those that don't remember.
That's good knowledge, don't we? Good knowledge. Yes, and a happy birthday to Celtic as well, Jonathan. 136. We'll leave that there. Yes, okay. We will do all that good stuff. Then get stuck in. All that good stuff means give us a wee like, give us a share. By all means, you can slag both of our hair. If you want to hit that wee bell button and hit subscribe and all that, that'd be good, because it means you never miss a bus when it's pulling up outside your door. And if you want to become a Boise Bus member, like so many have, it's $1.99 a month. It basically pays a subscription fee. It means like everyone in the team every couple of weeks gets a wee voucher or something like that as well. I don't mean everyone in the team gets a voucher every couple of weeks. I go round the houses with it all, but just to show that I value their input. So it's always a big help. Boise Bus members like Jim Dolan, like Scott Howe, like Margaret 121150, like Gary Brown, like Jim C. Any others in there tonight? Like Flexi. And loads of others, but it's totally optional. Content will always be free. And if you want to get your comments brought up and you're not a member, then just be like Joe C. and just say, hail from Cork. Hi to Boise and Jono. Best podcast on the net, bar none. I'll get you a mention, mate. That'll get you a mention. Some people are noticing that it's my birthday as well, Jonathan. Same birthday as Celtic's pretty cool, though, isn't it?
It's not bad.
It's not bad. Like, it's not like, if others.
What are we up to now? I lose count. Is it what, 48 you are now? I can't remember.
I fucking feel it. I felt it today at work, I tell you. Oh, I was rough.
Oh, I could tell.
I
bumped into you. Do you remember I bumped into you last night?
Yeah, that's how we got the zippy. Thanks very much for that, mate. But I was wrecked. I was hammered. It was great fun, though. Everyone was. But yeah, it was tough today. Tough. It's tough.
A rude awakening for your birthday.
Yeah, I'm exactly 100 years younger than Celtic to the day.
So. Even though you look 100 years older, I bet this morning.
Thank you. We'll save that for sudden death. Thank you. Okay, take it away. Have your wee moment in the sun.
Well, Russell, celebrations are on the mind. As you rightly point out, Celtic celebrate their 136th birthday today as you celebrate your 36th. And the celebrations couldn't have went any better on the pitch over the weekend as David Turnbull set the party off on the right tone with a well-wrapped finish into the corner. However, when you were looking at other players throughout the team, it looked as if Luis Palma had decided to be inspired by Bonfire Night as he unleashed his own rocket right into the top corner of the Ross County net. And then you have the wonderful James Forrest, whose sparkler never seems to stop after he made it 15 years of shining goals down on us in the SPFL with the third one at the weekend. Brendan was even in party mode as the hands were getting raised once more as he took in the adulation of the supporters. However, attention now turns to Madrid. And when you're talking about fireworks, We are playing with fire when we go over to Madrid. Will we get burned? That is the big question. Or does Brendan Rodgers have his fire extinguisher packed for the flight to dismiss Atletico Madrid and get Celtic back in the Champions League title race?
Well, they will definitely need a party bag or two on them if they want to try and get a win in Madrid. I don't think it's very likely, but I was glad Phil and Timmy Bing both picked up on the best part about that opening gambit, and I don't know if you even meant it or not. You just get kind of Ross County. That was brilliant. Thoroughly enjoyable. They get better and better all the time. Good wee theory tonight as well. I like that one, Jonathan. Good wordplay. You're getting better at this. I don't know where where it's running off to, but it works, mate. It works. Right. Why Celtic 8 points already is a massive lead for the chasing pack to try and overturn. There's many reasons for it, and I think we have came out of that first round of fixtures, with it. We were up against it before that, I think. Do you know what I mean? In terms of looking at those fixtures, new manager, shite summer transfer window apparently, and all that sort of thing, which probably still was. And losing Jota, injuries at the back. And it just seemed like, it just felt like, that those fixtures combined with that could be difficult. However, we've navigated it with ease. Yes, the League Cup was disappointing, but of course the advantage of that was we got a chance, a rare chance, to have played a game more than Rangers in the league and actually extend our gap at the top. We don't often get to play a round of fixtures before them, let alone not even on the same weekend. I mean, wow. That was a real advantage, because normally we're in the semi-finals and winning these other trophies as well. But the benefit of that was 8 points clear, and that is a sizable gap. And it's been navigated with 7 of the... Am I right in thinking how many games we played? Where's that league table? You got that league table?
12 games we've played.
And have we played 7 out of 12 away then?
I think we have played roughly
7 out of 12 away, already done, already navigated, which always means you can flip it for them in the next sort of round, because they've definitely had it more comfortable that way. And I think they're more likely, if they're already 8 points behind, having played the majority of their games at home, we've been away, we've had the toughest away tests as well, remember. If that's what's coming down the line for our nearest rivals, and they're already 8 behind, I mean, who's to say that they're not going to end up further behind when you look at it? I think as well we need to be impressed with how well Celtic seem to do this in spite of shite refereeing, let's just call it for what it is. And the officials rubbed that salt in the wounds from seeing shirt pulls that guarantee Rangers a penalty. They just guarantee them. And for us not even to get checked by VAR, to then seeing yesterday, we Smirky McSmurkerson, you know what I mean? May as well have given the guy a gobble up like that Rangers manager after the goal went in. Do you know what I mean? Such was his lust for the boss at Rangers. Do you know what I mean? It's embarrassing when you see stuff like that. We do it up against all that as well. Do you know what I mean? I think that 8 points, when you think of decisions that have went in their favour compared with ours so far in the league, you look at the fixtures compared with ours in the league, and we're 8 clear already. They're in a world of trouble, and no one even wants to comment on it, because they would rather focus on them winning the League Cup for the first time in 13 years or something like that. Or in their history, if you like. What birthday have they got? If Celtics is today, which one are they choosing?
I think it's funny with Rangers, because I was in work today, Russell, and the Rangers fans seem to be conveniently forgetting they're actually now 8 points behind, such as the big licks they've given this new manager. They have already written off that game in hand as an automatic 3 points, and the gap remains 5, which was quite a remarkable take from a lot of them, to be honest with you today. When you're looking at Celtic, it couldn't have really went much better. The opening 12 games of the league campaign, pretty much maximum points, a couple of drop points here and there, but that's to be expected when you look at the fixtures that we've played. You'll look at the next 12 games, and that is going to be a total reverse in terms of home and away fixtures. which does present an opportunity there for Celtic to get even more points on the board when they're playing at home more frequently. And the flip side to that as well is that Rangers are now going to be severely tested for the first time this season. They've only had small tests so far over at Ibrox, and they've failed even them, apart from the League Cup, which fair enough, they've done okay there. But, in terms of the main priority for both Celtic and Rangers, it's always the league, always will be the league. Nobody cares, mate, about the League Cup at the end of the day. Once you go out of it, you'd rather make a dent in Europe. I certainly would. Anyway, I'm always of that opinion. So they might have their moment at Hampden next month, but I can assure you they won't be having their moment in the league. It's about to get a whole lot worse for them, I suspect, over the next few weeks. Celtic will pull away. The league will be over, I suspect, by the time that derby rolls around at Christmas. I suspect Celtic will win that comfortably as well. I'm quite happy to go on the record saying that from what I've seen from both teams at the moment. And it's really all there for us at the moment. We've got the advantages heading into this next block of fixtures, and provided we take advantage of that, then I cannot see any way back for Rangers, even at this early stage in the title race. And if they end up not falling through and winning the League Cup, then the media narrative is going to be awfully sticky for the new Rangers manager, even at this early stage, which would be quite funny, wouldn't it?
Well, it would, and it would be interesting to find out how on earth they would try and spin this into... I mean, we need to remember, for example, with Mickey Beale, the media narrative was that he was the best thing since sliced bread. I'm not talking about Mark Warburton, I'm just saying they were rating him right highly. But actually, they then spun it once they got rid of him and said, well, we knew from the start he was a dodgy one because, he was up watching when Gio was under pressure. No Rangers manager should have done that. It's not what you were saying at the time. Shut up. And you're doing the exact same thing with Clement. We'll see it right now. That's what's coming their way. But we've got in the other end a manager who knows the position he's in Scotland pretty clearly. He's shown before when he's had points gaps at the top of Celtic. Quite likes navigating from that space. So I agree with you. I don't see any way they'll claw that back. I think that gap will start looking more and more daunting for them. They've never liked pressure, and the core of those players are still the same as what they've always been, and they are a bunch of bottle merchants. The only time they've ever looked right confident side is when they were miles clear of a very flawed Celtic situation and with no fans to put pressure on them. That'll be the case this year. They will have pressure on them. There'll be away games they need to dig deep, and they will not dig deep enough. We've seen that a million times. So I think Celtic deserve a lot of plaudits for how well they've managed to get themselves 8 points clear in the league already. Obviously, the one thing we can say about the next round of fixtures, the officiating ain't going to be any better. The fixers in there, and I hate sounding like it's a conspiracy theorist. It's not a conspiracy if the evidence is black and white in your fucking face. Take the word conspiracy away, and you're looking at reality. It's stupid calling it a conspiracy theorist or tinfoil hat stuff. I know what I'm watching. I know when it's a nod and a snigger. It's just completely done, by the way. Impulsively. He has not been able, that fourth official person, to fucking...
Dickinson, I think it was.
He's not been able to contain himself, though, has he? He's just went, it's just an instinctive thing, because that's his boy, that's his team. It's just like, fucking hell. But the shot pull at Ross County, let's go back to our game. We watched that go against Hearts when they played Rangers only a matter of days ago. And it was like, oh, well, now when you see the replay, you might not have noticed it at first glance, but there is a jersey pull there. Don't think Celtic would get that, to be honest, but of course they got it. But then the proof is in the pudding. They don't even look at it when it's Celtic. They don't even fucking look at it. And the reason they don't look at it, right, is because I think some of these shot pulls, I think if there's a penalty for every single shot pull in the box, it's going to be a hell of a lot more penalties in football over the next few months, right? A hell of a lot more. So I wonder if there's a bit of me that goes, I'm not that bothered that we didn't get a penalty for it. But what I do not like is the fact they get them all. They get every fucking one of those decisions. But now, that's where the bias comes in. Maybe the bias isn't so much aimed anti-Celtic. Maybe it's just so pro-Rangers. They just can't help themselves. But when I see such look at some of the spot the difference that David was playing yesterday in the bus. So that was a brilliant game at the end of the Blether. He says, who must play spot the difference? And he just put up the two photos of the shirt pulls. One's a penalty, one's not. And when you look at it like that, you go, this is fucking mental. Like, it is mental because at the end of the day, a ref might miss these incidents. I get that. But no danger, mate. No fucking danger can VAR miss one but spot the other. It's just not happening. It's just not happening. And that's what really, really frustrates me because I'm not going to get told I'm paranoid or any of that shit when I know what I'm looking at. I'm not wearing tinted glasses. I'm looking at the same fucking thing. One team gets it, one team doesn't. One team's had an astonishing amount of penalties over the last few years. One team hasn't had any against them in their home ground in the league for X amount of years, whatever it is now. They've now got, I think, someone was posting the best penalty difference, like for and against, in the whole Europe since 2020. I thought it was longer than that, to be honest. It's just incredible to watch. And I think when we're up against that backdrop, that will still be against us in this next round of fixtures that I keep referring to, right? But there's only so much and so far they can take it with that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think when you're looking at stuff like that, if you're good enough, you'll be able to beat any refereeing decisions that go against you as well. And Celtic are more than capable of doing that with how good they are. But that doesn't necessarily mean it shouldn't be getting called out for what it is. And I would like to think that behind the scenes, those conversations are being had as to what is going on with the refereeing, because there is quite clearly a bit of a double standard in the last couple of weeks. I think really since Clement's got the job, Rangers have had, I think in the last 4 games, they've had a penalty in every single one of them. I'm keeping tabs, Russell. You may have noticed there was a bet at the start of the season, gamble responsibly if you're going to gamble, but there was money you could be made on Rangers to get 10 or more penalties with Bet365. That was
10 or more, was that it?
Yeah, so you can imagine I'm keeping count from a financial perspective on this. Always keep your eye on the money. And, when you're looking at it, they've already had 4 now, and I think all 4 of them have came in the last 2 or 3 weeks. So there does seem to be a sort of mounting up of them at the moment, and I suspect that's going to continue as the fixtures get a wee bit trickier for them in the league. Do not be surprised for 1 minute if there is penalties given in their favour when they go to the likes of Easter Road, when they go to the likes of Tawdry. Maybe don't get them as regularly at Celtic Park, but I still wouldn't necessarily rule it out. I think if somebody's going to get a penalty, it sure as hell won't be us. It'll be more likely to be them, which is mental because we'll spend probably much more of that game with the ball in their box than they will with the ball in ours. But it's a very interesting one. I think particularly when you go back to the amount of penalties they've actually conceded. I think that's really where the biggest eye-opener is on this, because you could possibly make an argument, that, okay, they spend a lot of time in opposition boxes because they're one of the better teams. So naturally, like Celtic, you would expect them to have a fairly large number of penalties go in their favour that are legitimate penalties. But to have had so little awarded against them, particularly when VAR has been introduced, which naturally is going to bring up the number of penalties conceded by every club, or that's how it should work anyway. And there's a comment there from CJ that's about 62 league games, since they last conceded one, which I knew was something.
It's just unbelievable. That's nearly 2 full seasons worth of games. Was it 38 games? Was that 76? It would take you up to be 2 full seasons. 14 games away from 2 full seasons worth. And the best bit is, you speak, Jonathan, about bets of 10 penalties for over a season. If in the next 14 games, which would take it up to that 76 number, which would be a collective of 2 full seasons in essence, you wouldn't bet £1 on Rangers to concede a penalty in the next 14 games. What does that tell you?
Oh no, you definitely wouldn't. You wouldn't be going anywhere near that sort of bet with a barge pole. They just, as I say, that seems to be the most eye-opening statistic. I think when you break it down, is the lack of penalties conceded. And I bring it right back because of VAR being introduced. The penalty is that teams should be conceding should be higher, because there is a lot more scope now for not just the referees to look at something, but the guys in the truck to spot something that everybody else has missed. So naturally, you would expect teams to concede more penalties when VAR is in operation. But it seems to have been the total reverse since it's been introduced. They've probably conceded even less penalties since it's been introduced. And it's not as if there haven't been plenty of instances. I would imagine Connor Carr would be extremely good to have on a show like this because he could probably have them all rattled off on a list. But there are so many you can think of off the top of your head. Where there's instances where Rangers have got away with it. And then you can think of instances where you feel Celtic were hard done by, but they've had a penalty given against them. And many 50-50s have gone against us over the past year or two since VAR was introduced. So there's definitely a lot of questions to be asked as to what's going on, with the refereeing. I think there's also, question marks as well over, O's alleged push from the Scales goal at the weekend.
We'll talk about it. I want your thoughts on it. Give us your thoughts on it.
I didn't see any push. I didn't understand that one whatsoever. I was baffled. I was convinced that was going to get overturned. When I seen that go to VAR, I was like, well, there's nothing in that. I mean, if you watch the Newcastle Arsenal game on the Saturday night, there was far more of a push in that game for the Newcastle goal on the boy, and that wasn't even overturned by the English officials. But you look at that one, I just don't understand that it's a contact sport. There's no way if that's a foul, then you can't not give the penalty for the clear shirt tug, and that's just all in the same game by the same officials that are somehow seeing totally different things, but all of them seem to have one common denominator, and that was the decision went against us in those particular instances. And even going further along on that, the offside call, it looks very debatable. As well. I think it probably is just about correct, that one. But again, the angles you're shown, it isn't good from a viewing point of view either. The English fans, or anybody, any neutral watching that, is going to look at that and think, that's pretty tight and pretty difficult to call. And you're not really creating the product that we should be striving to create, in Scottish football, when you can't even get camera angles that are in line and can quite clearly give you a much more definitive viewpoint as to whether or not a ball that's played through is offside. The frame even looked wrong. Sutton picked up on it at half time that he felt the frame was off, and it did look off to begin with. So
the ball's left his boot.
Yeah, I agree. I think what they've shown us to begin with, the ball had left his boot. I think personally, he might have just been offside on that one. But again, it's very fine margins. It's very difficult to tell, particularly from the
That's
angles.
That's fine, but prove it. Yeah. That's what we're saying. That's what fucking VAR's there for. These are meant to be, remember, in the words of smarmy Gordon Duncan, which he's not always smarmy. He's quite a good host, to be fair to him, I think. But when it comes to SFA stuff, he can be a bit smarmy, I think, at times, right? Because I think he used to work for them. In fact, he did used to work for them. So, and it's Gordon Duncan, the Clyde One host. Yeah. He was adamant last year after Fir Park. Adamant. I remember a viewer phone up, and or a listener or whatever, and phoning and saying sort of like, that Jota one is so unproven by the angle they've shown it from, whether he's off or not. All we're asking is to look at it and see it properly. And if he's off, he's off. But he goes, no, but you can't doubt it because the technology is the VAR lines are always right. It's not up for debate. That's what he literally said. He goes, it's not up for debate because this is spot on. Then we hear another guy, influential in the media in Scotland, and that's Ian Crocker, who's been the main sort of lead commentator for 25 years of Scottish football. And he says, well, wait on Andrew Dallas to draw the lines.
They will draw the lines. They will draw the lines. Gordon Duncan's talking rubbish. They only use technology for offside in the Champions League. The Champions League has it nailed down. Even in England, they draw the lines. So in Scotland, I can bet your bottom dollar they absolutely draw the line.
Why was he? Again, of course, that was something that he was quite thingy about. It was a wee bit annoying, to be honest, at the time. So I thought, but that's not. That just gives then a complete cloak of invincibility, if you like, where they can go, well, there's a guarantee I'm right. It didn't look right to me. They've only got it from that angle. That angle looks very, very much undefining as opposed to anything else. Now, my concern with that is how difficult a job would it be within a matter of seconds, maybe a couple of minutes, you've got to draw up these lines bang on the money from an angle that's miles off. Do you know what I mean?
It'll be very difficult.
It'd be very difficult to get that right. So I don't get that.
I agree. I think it would be difficult, and then you're always wondering, are there other factors at play that could be influencing where those lines are being drawn, depending on who the person is that's drawing the lines, and that's always going to be a question mark that comes back. And the thing is with VAR, it's only really supposed to be there for clear and obvious errors. So if there's something you're looking at and you're needing a few minutes to look at something, that instantly points towards me that it's not clear and obvious, because you can't even make your mind up when you've seen 3-4 replays, a few times over. And I think we need to get into a place where if we're just going to be nitpicking forever more about whether a decision is right or wrong, then it can't be clear and obvious if you can't make a decision on it pretty quickly, because that's just not how it's designed to work. I did hear an interesting one, though, on Twitter, Russell, which I'm interested on your thoughts with VAR, because there's clearly room to improve it. And there was talk potentially of, turning it into a bit like what they do at Wimbledon in the tennis, where you get a certain number of challenges and they get allocated to your managers, and then that limits VAR's involvement. I'm not going to say that's going to help with the decision-making process from us, but at least stops it being as stop-start as the games can sometimes be. If you're just given the powers to the managers to then make the calls as to when they want VAR to intervene and have another look at something, is that the way we should go to try and stop, all the stoppages in the play? I mean, I just feel we need to be doing something to make it slightly better for the fans, particularly the ones in the stadium.
The only way that works is if you use an appeal and it's actually supported in the end by the VAR check, and they go, right, you were right, Brendan, to do that, then you don't lose a life, if you like.
Yeah, which would be like tennis. That would be like
You've
tennis.
You've got to keep that, because imagine if you are in this bonkers game that's 5-4, right? Or it could be something like that, right? But 4 goals, the goals that you've conceded, wouldn't be 5-4, it doesn't matter. But like, if you got it right 3 times in a row, the other team was offside when they scored, but you still lost an appeal. That would mean, like, if the officials missed then the next 3 goals, the other team scored, but yet they were all offside as well, you could do fuck all about it. That wouldn't work. Do you know what I mean? So, from that point of view, yeah, I quite like that idea, though. I'm not against it at all. I don't think, again, though, you need to be really realistic here. Look at how the SFA, etc., conduct themselves. These are referees shit feared from scrutiny. Shit feared from... Imagine it being a manager who looks like they're coaching them during the game by going, I can go do the check, I'll be right, he'll have got it wrong. They would hate that, mate. They would fucking hate that. These are referees, remember, that are more comfortable going to fucking Rangers pubs, mate, after Rangers Celtic games than they are to do post-match interviews. That's the reality. More comfortable to go to a fucking boozer and basically tie your colours to the mast sort of thing, do you know what I mean? And not give a fuck than they would actually just being asked a couple of questions after the game. How the fuck did you arrive at that decision, mate? See, when you look at these 2 decisions, the one was given there, no, it was one of your colleagues, and this was the one not given this week. Surely to fuck, they'd be going, right, can we ask you, like, how you're getting these decisions right? They will never, ever, ever want that sort of scrutiny. So it's just pissing in the wind with that sort of thing, as far as I'm concerned. It is a frustration. Anyway, let's talk about some good Celtic stuff, Jonathan. Talk to me about the goals that we've seen at the weekend. David Turnbull, obviously, I made a strange kind of half case for at the weekend. But I don't know where you would stand on it. I was saying, look, I think there's a space for him in the squad, from our point of view, to be a guy who can play against the sort of bottom 6, because he is good. See, when there's 2 banks of 5 effectively that you're up against, he's got that shooting accuracy from the edge of the box where it doesn't matter. If he gets 5 inches of space, he's happy to have a ping, and he's very good at that, to be fair. His goal at the weekend, again, superb. I doubt David Turnbull would be happy with that. Mark was saying something yesterday about he thinks he's the best player in the world or something like that, or he thinks he is, and he goes, I don't mind that. I'm not sure that's the case, but I think all players need to have a bit of self-worth, and I think all players at 20, what's he, 24? Something like that.
Yeah.
Going to be, he's been at Celtic 3 years now. You're wanting to have thought you've now got to the stage where you can nail down a more regular spot. I think if he was staying to be just used as, in my theory, as a bottom six player and not really for Champions League and things like this, he might want to go play 40 games in a more competitive environment like the Championship in England, something like that. I don't know. I just wonder if he has got some sort of space there from a Celtic point of view, but whether David Turnbull might not agree and share the same view. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think there's definitely frustration in Turnbull at the moment. I think over his game time, I think you've seen that during the week with the fingers in the ears sort of celebrations that Sutty picked up on in his article at the weekend as well. I think Turnbull does certainly have a place in the squad, but in terms of putting him in the big games, you wouldn't trust him. I'm sorry, but you just wouldn't trust him. I mean, there's no way you would be feeling confident if he's one of the starting picks tomorrow night, for example. You just wouldn't trust him at all in a game of that magnitude. So, and I don't think Brendan would trust him in a game of that magnitude either. I think Brendan's quite happy to use him for rotation around these European games whilst the fixture list is congested. You do need a squad. You look at somebody like a David Turnbull, who I think for the most part can do it against most teams in the league. I think, he's a perfectly good SPL level player. I don't think there's any real qualms with playing him against most of the teams. Perhaps you maybe wouldn't want to start him in, some of the trickier venues like an Ibrox or a Pataudry or a Tynecastle. But I think for the most part, he could probably play against anybody else in the league and probably do a decent enough job for us in most of those games. But, is that really going to be enough for Turnbull? Was that really the vision he was sold when he was signed a few years ago? I don't think so. I think if he's also wanting to make inroads with the national team, he might be looking at it and thinking, I need to get a move away. And, playing for Scotland at the moment is looking more and more lucrative as a player as well, because it's not just the pride of playing for your country, but, Scotland are actually on the up as well. And you've got chances now, real chances of playing in major tournaments with the national team because they are now beginning to qualify more regularly for these events.
He's not in that conversation either, is he? He's not even in the conversation. No, that's what I
mean. He'd need to move if I think he's going to even try and force his way in. The midfield in Scotland is very strong, and the only way you're going to get yourself into it is by playing consistently. And there's absolutely no danger if David Turnbull stays at Celtic. For me, he'll be able to knock on Steve Clarke's door for a call-up, for example, for the Euros next summer. Or even in future qualifying campaigns with the way his game time's going at the moment. So I think all those factors will play into it. I think obviously there is the X factor in the Celtic dugout now because you just don't know what Brendan necessarily thinks he could get from him. And Brendan might well see a player there that still has that potential. That was why Celtic signed him. He might just think this is going to take you a bit of time. And Brendan might well be somebody, one of the few guys I would say who could possibly sit down with him and make him believe that he could turn him into a player that can get into the national teams, that can push his way into Celtic starting 11s in the bigger games. But it'll probably really depend where Rodgers sees the boy. But the fact of the matter is, I think his contract's up in the summer, isn't it? So again, if that's the case, then there's no new deal on the table as of yet that we know of. So that
he's not going to be getting improved terms either, is he?
No, I don't think so. It would be a case that if Brendan wants to keep him, he would be trying to play one of his mind games, I think, to try and get him to stay and make him feel like he's worth $1 million. But I don't know if Brendan even rates him that highly, or whether he thinks he's a good squad player for now, but come, January, come next summer, I'm going to get more of my boys in, and there's not going to be a place for David Turnbull, because that's where I think Brendan is going to look at it. Because Brendan wants to make progress in Europe. That's why he's back.
Of course.
And I think he looks at guys like David Turnbull, and he doesn't think they're going to be the answer. And that's why you won't see David Turnbull play tomorrow night unless he comes off the bench.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, though, because did he really sign anyone with one eye on Europe in his first full window? I don't know. Palma, maybe? Palma's done quite well in Europe so far. But yeah, I mean, that is interesting. A wee nod to Palma, the what a wonder goal that was as well. Absolutely brilliant. And one of the things is, I mean, you watch the highlights again since watching it live on Saturday morning, Saturday early afternoon, felt like morning. And I think that was actually, it was a weird one, because I don't think Celtic were electric or brilliant, But had we got the goals that we deserved, earned, and then one or two other instances where we could have scored, let's just say, ended up with a goal, that could have been realistically 6, 7, 8, maybe even at a push. Now, if that had been the case, it'd be interesting to see if we still thought it was an okay display.
I thought it was a very good display. I didn't really understand that narrative, to be honest. I thought it was a very good display. I mean, it was telling. The Ross County goalkeeper got man of the match after the game.
He was very good, by the way.
And he was very good. I mean, I take the point that it's 11 against 10. So you're expecting Celtic to win comfortably when the Ross County boy gets sent off. But there is still a job to do there. And, Rodgers makes a good point after the match as well, that, it just turns teams into even more of a defensive unit when they go down to 10 men, and they've got no real outball. So they're going to try and keep their shape and make life difficult for us. But I have to say, I thought we were very unlucky to finish the game with only 3 goals. I felt when the goals arrived, and they were deserved towards the end of the game. But I thought the performance was one of the better ones we've put in the league this season. And that could have comfortably, on another day, been a 5-6-7-0 performance to have gone with it. And I just think sometimes that we get too caught up in the way that Brendan Rodgers plays and want to compare it too much to what Ange Postecoglou did. But, with Ange Postecoglou, it wasn't 100 miles an hour for 90 minutes. I think people need to remember as well. It would be a case the foot would be on the pedal, until the player's tired. And it was a totally different way of playing. And then once the tiredness set in, the game would kind of die down a lot. Whereas with Rodgers, it's a lot more methodical. It's a lot more about conserving energy so that players do have that extra gear or two that they can go into as the game progresses if they need to go into it. So I think the way Rodgers is trying to work it is to try and get the best out of the players over a longer period of time, whereas the way Ange goes for it is more rock and roll sort of football and tries to go for the throat early. But then it can sometimes mean if that doesn't happen, you can end up chasing your tail a wee bit as the game runs out of time and, players are beginning to tire. So it's 2 different ways to play the game. There's no right or necessarily wrong way out of the 2 of them. I think we just have to be willing to accept that the way Brendan Rodgers has done it has been working a charm in terms of results pretty much all the way through in the league campaign. And, the performances have been there in a lot of these games as well. And I thought, Saturday was a brilliant example of that, albeit it was only 3 goals when it could have been 6.
Yeah, I think that's fair comment, mate. Well put. You said that piece well, Jonathan. I like that. That was good. Right. Let's have a wee look ahead into tomorrow. Tuesday night, Atletico Madrid away. Bit of needle in it now for me. I'm like, fuck that, Simeone. I just kind of bought it with him again. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, nah. Didn't like that childish shite at the end of the game. I know he was quite complimentary in the presser, but that's just someone who's just never changed when he was a player. He was a bastard as a player as well. I don't just mean the Beckham thing. I mean, I watched him in Champions Leagues throughout like my childhood. Do you know what I mean? Playing for Inter Milan predominantly, I remember as well. Simeone pissed me off with that handshake thing. And I hate wee rats that then the presser, once he's got his emotions back in check, because that's the real him that came out. Do you know what I mean? That's the real wanker, mate. And then by the time he said he's had a chance to compose himself, get his thoughts together, suddenly he's been complimentary about Celtic and stuff. Now, fuck off, mate. Do you know what I mean? I know exactly your game. Bought sweeties out of your shop before. I know exactly what you're like. And the real you was exposed because your emotions were flying. And I just hate stuff like that. For me, I want to beat them now more than I did before. Just a couple of % more. Do you think it's realistic? No, I don't, sadly. I think we'll be in the wrong end of at least 2 goal difference defeat. And I hate saying that. But the flip side is, he's due sign, Brendan. He's definitely due this season. And I don't mean just Rodgers. That sounds a bit self-indulgent on him. The players do as well. They just deserve that one eyebrow-raising result where you go, oh, yeah, fucker. And then suddenly the buy-in is is now just it's undeniable. Because if we were to go there and get a massive landmark result, like we did when we went to Lazio and beat them in Rome under Lenny, you know? That guy that Regan said yesterday is not a good football manager. Didn't like that, Regan.
Yellow card for Rigas,
I think. But yeah, I just think with regards to that result, then that would be of a similar sort of standing. Do you know what I mean? To go to, I think it'd be more difficult because it's in the Champions League, and obviously Atletico are more predominantly in that than the Europa League. But we need something like that. We need to really try and pull a rabbit out of the hat. If we want any chance of staying in the group, I think we need the win as well, don't we? Is a draw enough?
I mean, a draw would probably keep lingering hopes alive just about, but you would be relying on favours going forward. I mean, we could definitely do with the 3 points. I mean, if it was to be a draw, you would say that's an excellent result in isolation, fantastic, from probably the hardest fixture in the group for me going over to Madrid. I think if we're looking for that big result, it might be more likely to come in Rome because I feel that's who are able to be got at more. I think that defeat them at Celtic Park is really the one that's going to come back and haunt us come the end of this campaign, because that is one we should just never have lost with the way that game was going. I think the performances, it's been eerily similar to last year. I feel like a wee bit of a broken record because it's been, again, a case of some really good performances. I know you like to say plaudits, not points, but it feels like it's been that. But perhaps without as many plaudits this year because Brendan is expected to do more with a worse team than what Andrew's expected to do last year with a better team. But, I think I look at it and I look at Atletico Madrid tomorrow, and I mean, I'm usually fairly positive, but I'm struggling to see anything other than the defeat there, to be honest with you, as well. But, you never know. Maybe it is going to be one of those really memorable nights. God knows Celtic are due one, particularly in the Champions League. The performances have been there this campaign. The results, not so much, but I would consider it to be one of our best Champions League results of all time. If we go over there and win, I would absolutely say that categorically, without question. That's up there for me with anything we've managed to achieve in that competition. If we go to Madrid and manage to find a way to win that game. If we come away with a draw, I'd still have lingering hopes probably for third. But realistically, if that happens, you would need to beat Lazio and Feyenoord to have any chance at all of pulling that off, which again still gives you a massive uphill challenge to overcome. But we've made this for ourselves. The first 3 games, the results haven't been there, and we now find ourselves in a position where we're chasing things where we shouldn't be, based on the performances we've put in so far. And now we're almost relying on snookers at this point to get ourselves out of a horrible predicament that we find ourselves in. And you just think it's going to be a massive ask for Celtic tomorrow, no question about that. And if they're going to manage anything, they're going to need to be strong defensively. And if there's one thing I think Celtic have been a bit bad at, even domestically this season, has been leaking goals. And I can't see them keeping a clean sheet. And if they can't keep a clean sheet, I can't see them getting the 3 points.
Yeah. It's going to be a familiar one, I think. I hope I'm wrong. I really do hope I'm wrong, but I'm not. I don't know. I've not got vibes that we're going to be able to do it, unfortunately. Albeit, I thought we were very impressive against Atletico last time out, so they should have a bit of confidence from that. A quick question for Shell comes in. Will Home get the nod tomorrow, or will Brendan leave him out because of his lack of experience in the CL? I think it might be because of his last experience in the CL when he got sent off. That might just prevent Brendan from making the plunge into playing home again. But it does then beg the question: who will?
Yeah, it does. It does beg that question. I think it's going to be Bernardo. That's what I would suspect is going to be the one who goes in there. I think Holmes
did well against them, though. He did very well against them.
I thought he was very impressive in that game. So yeah, I would be. I wouldn't have a problem if it ends up being Bernardo that takes the spot in there. Alongside McGregor and O'Reilly. I think obviously that's a position we're going to be looking at closely in the midfield. As I said earlier, I wouldn't trust Turnbull in this sort of game of this magnitude. I think Holm, because as you rightly say, got sent off against Feyenoord in that first game, and it was a really stupid red card to have picked up as well. You could maybe have forgiven him if you could argue the point he was being a bit unlucky and just made a slightly mistimed tackle, but the tackle was utterly reckless from the get-go. So I don't see how he will be able to get away with getting a start after that, because he hasn't really done enough for me in the other games that we've seen him to merit getting chucked in for a game like this. So I think law of averages then points it towards Bernardo, who hasn't really done an awful lot wrong in the times that we have seen him. So I'd expect
he also felt like when he came off the bench 2 minutes in or whatever it was when Atati came off, I was a bit surprised that it was him at the time. I didn't realise he was like in the effectively what looked like the sort of fourth choice midfielder bracket for Celtic. He didn't really seem to be much in the picture at all, and that was a bit of a curveball in itself, bringing him on as the sub in that game. Notwithstanding that, he played very, very well in it, and I think that nudges him in the pole position to get the game again tomorrow. But he's a weird one, Bernardo. I don't know what to make of him yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's still the jury's still out as to how good he is or otherwise. I found it interesting that after playing against Atletico Madrid, he didn't seem to take quite a bit of time off. I don't think he started the next game. So I don't know if there's a fitness.
He did start the next game. Yes, we started effectively the exact team we played at Atletico the next game.
It was the St Mirren midweek,
but he wasn't very good.
Yeah. I mean, there is those sort of arguments. I just think because we hadn't seen that much of him either up until the Madrid game. I don't know if there is a fitness issue perhaps there in terms of how many minutes he can manage in a week as well. That's perhaps playing in the back of Brendan's mind, because I would imagine if he does start the game, I can't see him finishing it. And for who it's short on options in terms of central midfielders that have the quality, I think, to play at this level at this stage. Home might come good. Turnbull, I think, isn't going to be able to cut it. And I kind of look at it, and then you're thinking perhaps, if you're going to go for a more conservative approach, you might go for Nawata. We've not seen an awful lot of him, so I don't know if this game is perhaps more set up for somebody of that ilk who will, be able to read the game from the back.
What was you thought though was going to come on? Was it, if you had to put, I know we spoke about betting a lot tonight, always about gamble responsibly and all that, but if we had 50p, that you had to put on who was going to replace if Atati came off in the opening few minutes of the match, I would have said Iwata every single time. A wee 50p piece, Jonathan.
Yeah, I kind of understood why he didn't in that game at that time. Home game he needed to win. He's lost one of his midfielders after only a couple of minutes. He still wants to go on the front foot. And he's probably felt Bernardo's going to offer him more of an attacking edge than, Iwata is at that moment in time. Whereas I think, going over to Spain, you're probably wanting to keep it a bit tighter earlier on, because I don't see it playing out as another 2-2, slugfest between these two this time around. I think if Celtic are going to get a result, they're going to need to play it very cleverly and absorb the pressure that Atletico Madrid are undoubtedly going to put on us in the initial stages, and that's where Iwata might turn out to be the better choice for this particular occasion. And then you can always look to change it from the bench, provided you still keep yourself in the game, because the game can get away from you in the first half an hour. But if you're able to keep it tight, keep it compact, you can always end up pinching something. The more the game goes on, the more the crowd get on their back. And then I think that is the route we might choose to go down. So I could probably see it being between Bernardo and Iwata. The more I think about it, actually, I'm kind of coming round more to the idea of Iwata possibly getting a call in from the cold on this one. I think there might well be a surprise in the starting lineup. I wouldn't surprise me whatsoever if Brendan throws some form of curveball in there. Whether he changes the formation to try and be a bit more conservative. We've seen him try back fives in the Champions League before. I just don't know. I think he's going to want to find a way.
3-5-2.
I think he's going to try and want to find a way that might throw Simeone off, and also offer us a little bit more protection from the initial onslaught that we will undoubtedly face tomorrow night. I'm interested. Are you expecting a Brendan Rodgers curveball tomorrow, Russell, or is it going to be more of the same?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I think probably the same. I'd love to see 3-5-2.
Who goes up front? Maida and Kyogo. Who plays in the 3-5-2?
I would go with Kyogo and Maida to get them right stretched. Go a wee bit more route one when needed. I don't care about the style of football. I'm not one of those fans who gets bored about that. That's what win.
I
care about is winning.
I'm not sure Brendan Rodgers necessarily always shares that complete belief. I think he likes to win the certain way. Although I'll give him it, he is changing. I think he did show at Leicester in their European run. He was willing to make changes, and I think he has learned a lot since the last time he was at Celtic. I don't think we'll be as open as we were when we went to the likes of PSG and Barcelona. I don't think it'll be like that at all with how we set up. I'm not saying the result can end up necessarily going the same way, right enough, but I think he will try and plug the gaps a lot more and not try and go toe-to-toe as much as he did the last time around. And he'll try to play to what he believes are the squad's strengths this time and potentially sacrifice his own preferred style of play to accommodate that.
Fair, Jonathan. I'll push you for a wee prediction before we go to my favourite part of the week.
Yeah, I mean, I think we might well pinch one, but I think they'll be too strong for us, unfortunately. I'm going to say 3-1 to Atletico, and I agree. I don't like doing that.
3-1.
Yeah, well, we're in agreement. That's unusual.
Yeah, I do agree with you. That's exactly what my prediction was going to be. When I was saying about the 2 goal, at least sort of thing, that was the score line that was floating about my head. I think they'll score. But yeah, I think it'll be. I hope I'm wrong, obviously. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing a podcast talking about Celtic if we actually wanted our predictions to be right. Do you know what I mean? But we will wait and see anyway. It's that time, your favourite time of the week, and my most feared, I think we can now say safely. I'm 8-3 down, and there's Phil McKinley. Happening, son.
Hello, Phil.
How you doing, boys? Doing all right?
Yes,
not bad.
Happy birthday, Mr. Boyce. I say Mr. Boyce. Both of you are Mr. Boyce, but Russell, happy birthday.
Yes, cheers, mate. I appreciate that, pal. Thank you.
No worries at all, mate. No worries. Sadly, this isn't really a birthday present, though, when I turn up on a Monday night, so I apologise.
As for me, I enjoy it.
Well, yeah, for you, yeah. As Russell just said there, it's currently 8-3 at the moment. Yeah, it was. Although last week was, I say a lot
shocking.
of people. Well, yeah, that surprised many people. Obviously, I was convinced he was going to have a stormer, but that just shows you the magic of this game. You just don't know what's going to happen. I was convinced last week he's been battered it, but nope, wasn't to be. Hopefully tonight, though. Hopefully tonight, questions a bit kinder for you, so you can get lots of the answers, and there is a fair amount of answers, to say the least. So.
We like a fair amount of answers. That's more our sort of level. The more answers, the merrier.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So, I will get all the aesthetics in set up, and if you wish to, at this stage of the game, wish to say any trash talking to each other, you can, or whatever you wish to do, go right ahead.
I think my days of sledging are well and truly over when it comes to sudden death. I'm just going to turn my comments off and take the punishment that is coming my way in the next few minutes.
I can't even bring myself to really take the piss out of him on his birthday. It seems a bit mean. To do that. I might let him win today. I might let him win tonight just because it's his birthday.
You're such a dick. Oh my God, you cannot say stuff. I hate stuff like that. I hate that.
We've got to turn it into more of a competition for the viewers, Russell. You really need to start improving.
I hate when folks say they're going to let you win. I'll give you a chance. Fuck. Oh God, that's worse than getting beat. Oh.
Hopefully that's fired you up then, Russell.
That's it. We need to put something.
Merit, mate. Come on, man. You need to get back in it here.
I know.
So, Jonathan.
Even the host is now allowed to root for me because I'm that far behind him. It's that pathetic a situation I find myself in. Fucking hell. He's trying to be nice, and it's fucking like, it just tells you just how much of a shit show I found myself in. Stupid game.
Let's go. There we go. So, Jonathan, you won the point last week. Do you wish to go first or second?
I'll go first. Russell can have a birthday clue.
Okay, so tonight's question has a very nice 18 answers, and it's one of those ones where you have to name all the players in a certain squad. I've done these ones a few times. Because obviously tonight, guys, as you've spoken about, Champions League football is back on the agenda. Remember what it was like to actually win a game in the Champions League group stages? I remember. 2017, we beat Anderlecht 3-0. Under Brendan Rodgers. That was the last win that we had in the Champions League group stages. 18 players in the matchday squad that day. 11 started. There were 7 on the bench. Can you name any of the players from that matchday squad?
Yes, I can. I'm going to go for one of the goal scorers, Lee Griffiths.
Yes, indeed, Griffiths is correct.
Scott Sinclair.
Another one of the goal scorers, yep.
Scott Brown.
Of course, the captain, yep.
Patrick Roberts.
Yeah, scored as well that night.
Oh, you're getting all the goal scorers out early.
That's
F in doubt, Russell. F in doubt. Go James Forrest.
I've actually got next to James Forrest's name, Jono's go-to answer for sudden death. That was one of the ones I had a clue next to, but I had a feeling he would have got said before that we got to that stage. But yes, James Forrest, of course, is correct.
Right. Mika Lustig.
Yeah, Lustig, he was indeed in that squad.
I will go Kieran Tierney.
Yeah, he was there, yep.
In the matchday squad, 2017. Boyata.
Yeah, Boyata played that night. He did indeed. 4 each after 4.
Craig Gordon.
Yeah, indeed.
That was my next guess.
Okay, Gordon is correct.
Right, okay. I'll take my clue anyway.
Okay, the clue for one of the missing players is luckily this guy wasn't shoehorned in at centre back this night.
Oh, I know that.
Near Beaton.
Yes, indeed. Yes, he was on the bench. So 5 each after 5. Still a few good answers in there, boys.
Yeah, Callum McGregor.
Yeah, surprisingly, McGregor was a substitute that night.
Was
Starting. Yeah, he was on the bench, but in the match squad.
Stuart Armstrong.
Yes, Stuart Armstrong was on the bench as well that night. Yep.
I'm going to say Simonovic.
Yeah, Simonovic.
I didn't want to say him because he's so injured so often.
Yeah, I wasn't sure on that. I was going to say Armstrong, but you beat me to that.
Rozo was in there, yep.
Now I'm confused. Because if McGregor and Armstrong are on the bench, who played for Brunei?
You indeed. It's a great question, Russell.
And I definitely don't.
And I think I know the answer.
Do you?
I think I know the answer to that question. So you can pass it over if you like.
And what was the date of the fixture?
It was September 2017.
September 2017. So this is Brendan's second spell. I'm so shit at these quizzes, man.
Oh, by the way, just so you know, there's 5 answers left. Just so you know.
5 left.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't have been him, could it? No. Must have been injured. Shit, I don't know. We're going to need to just throw someone in there. On the bench, I am going to say Tony Ralston.
Tony Ralston. I'm afraid Russell.
No, he played against PSG that season, didn't he?
He did play against PSG that
That's
season.
unlucky. It was a noble effort. And Cham.
Yes.
Cham was
Cham is correct.
Damn, I wouldn't have got that.
But there was another player that started in the midfield free, Tom Rogic. Rogic.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
And the 3 substitutes that you didn't get were Johnny Hayes, the substitute goalkeeper, Doris de Vries, and I was worried if you were going to say this one, Moussa Dembele, because I was wondering if you said Odsonne Edouard, because Edouard would have been wrong, but Moussa Dembele
I
was
was
on
trying
the
to think
bench.
who the sub-striker was, because
Well, I was like, why
Dembele
would
must have
Moussa-
been injured.
Why did
Griffith
Moussa not
started and he
start?
scored, but Dembele
I
was
knew
on.
that.
Aye.
That's why I just
But
assumed
why
the
was
other
Moussa
two were
on the
injured.
bench?
Don't know, was he just back from an injury? But yeah, I was worried if you were going to say Edouard, because he'd signed that summer on loan.
Yes.
I was wondering if you were going to go there because it was Dembele was on the bench. So yeah, in Cham, Rogic, Dembele, Hayes, and De Vries were the missing answers there, and that now makes the score. There's 6 points in it now. It's now 9-3 to Jonathan and sudden death.
Yeah, it's a hammering. It is a
Russell's needed
hammering.
some games in hand, like the Rangers, I think, to catch
It's
up.
ever since I moved through here.
That cost me.
I've been cussed since I moved through.
Mm-hmm. The dogs used to give him the answers, I think. They probably had
More clued up than fucking me anyway. Right, okay. I'm going to go and get this uploaded as an audio file. Remember, you can download all the Boys of Us and all your favourite podcast streaming sites. And we do an audio version as well. Right, okay. we will leave it there. I'm away to happily enjoy the rest of my birthday. Happy birthday, Celtic, as well. And as always, keep your eyes on the board. Bye.